Hey folks, welcome to Bear Mountain. Well, this week it's not going to be a super long video, but it's going to be answering kind of a question we get a lot on our KNF solutions that we use in addition to the JDAM solutions. There's a couple of solutions that we use that are enhancers to the plant. We use lactic acid bacteria, LAB. We use water-soluble calcium, which is made from eggshells. We use water-soluble calcium phosphate, which is made from charred bones, particularly animals such as ruminants and which would be cow bones, or to a lesser degree also pork bones. We don't use any bones that are from fowl like chicken or turkey or anything like that. So we're looking for the bones that are pretty dense and they have a fair amount of calcium and phosphorus in them. Now those solutions we use as enhancers, and we kind of taken a little bit different tact. They're applied foliar, and that's per the Korean natural farming methodologies. But we also add to it as a surfactant. We put in the JDAM wetting agent to help that material stick to the plants better. Normally during the season when we're in the summertime or spring or even to mid-fall, we'll be applying these solutions usually at dusk or in the morning. But in this case right now, we're in January, early January, and the light levels are actually pretty low. So we're going to be applying them today in the morning, but it should still work pretty well. It's not really super hot, and we're going to be applying these things to our ranunculus and our anemones in the tunnel. So what I wanted to do is address the question of saying, well, what kind of dilution do you use? And today what we're going to be using of the three I talked about is we're going to be using water-soluble calcium phosphate. Now that is applied at the time when you're transitioning from the vegetative growth into more of a flowering stage. And usually this is applied anywhere from 1 to 500 to 1 to 1,000 as a dilution. What that means is when we put it in a spray, such as a gallon sprayer, which I'm going to be using today, is that'll be approximately about 5 milliliters per gallon of spray solution that we're going to make. So let me just show you, how we measure it out and how we apply the surfactant, which we're going to be putting in at a 1 to 40 dilution, which is roughly ends up being somewhere around 95 milliliters for a 1 gallon spray. Okay, this is the typical sprayer we use for small applications. I have two types, but this one holds a gallon. Another one I have is a 2-liter hand pump version. Well, these are actually both hand pumps, but this one has more of a traditional spray nozzle on it, and I clearly marked on the sides. You can kind of tell where 2 liters are versus a half gallon versus a gallon. And what I'm going to ultimately want is a gallon total of spray. All right, so what I typically do is I'll fill the sprayer up about halfway. Then I'll put my solutions in, and then I'll fill up to the 1 gallon mark. So the first thing I'm going to put in is my additives. This one right here, this is what's left of my water-soluble calcium phosphate. I have just enough to spray today, but I'm going to have to be making a new batch of this pretty quick. So we'll probably do a video on that just to show you our methodology again on that. Okay, I've probably talked about these before, but these are printer refill. Basically, you can get these things at like a shop, like an office supply or something like that, or you can even get these things online. You can order a bag of them, but they're clearly marked. They've got like the amount of, milliliters, 5, 10. This one goes up to, I think, a total of 12. And so what I do is I use this to basically pull the solution in and then make sure I got the right measurements. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get 5 milliliters, which is this mark right here, and I'm just going to make certain that I get that in the solution itself, and I just pull the plunger up, and I think at this point I've got a little bit less than 5. I want to go over by a bit, and where I'm at right now is about 6 or 7, so I'm going to push the extra out until I got 5, and that's perfect. That's what I'm going to use to put in the solution. So this is my soap or surfactant, and I've got a small skim on top that's related to just condensate that kind of mixed with the material, and the actual most of the Jadam wet egg agent underneath is in good shape. This is a storage problem I have on my end. I really should have probably put this in a more airtight container because the material did have some condensate on the inside. So this emulsification on the top doesn't really hurt it, but it's kind of diluting it a little bit. But I'm going to take from underneath the layer, and I'll put in 95 milliliters into a gallon here, which is a 1 to 40 dilution to get enough good coating so that my minerals will stick to the plant leaves. And the other thing that's kind of interesting about this stuff is this is made from potassium hydroxide and a oil. In this case we use canola oil, and it's a basic emulsification of that with water or distilled water or rainwater, or basically a softened water. And so this liquid soap actually has a fairly high amount of potassium in it, which is also a benefit to the plant. So as it breaks down, it provides extra in terms of potassium for the plant. So I'm putting the last one in here. This is the last 11, which gets me up to 95 milliliter. So that is, let me just set this aside here. I'll have to clean that later. That's the basic materials inside. You can kind of not see too much to it. It looks just kind of nondescript. Basically now we fill the rest of it with water up to our 1 gallon mark. Make sure it's well agitated, and she's ready to go. So there's my 1 gallon of solution. You can't see it too well, but it's basically right to there. Now the other advantage of using this surfactant too is if there are any aphids down there on the plants, this will act as an insecticidal soap. It will actually smother them out. So I'm going to get 2 benefits from this. I'm going to knock down any early aphid eggs or aphids that are trying to work on the plants, and at the same time I'm going to provide my mineral supplement. So here are the ranunculus, and we talked about this in my last video about how it looked like the growth is kind of maybe a little too lush and needs a little more, I don't know the right way to describe this, but if the leaves were maybe a little less leggy. And this could be a function of light levels, but at the same time too, I think it's a mineral situation. And so these are the guys I want to spray, because I'm really afraid that these guys, as soon as we get any kind of prolonged, longer days, the aphids will show up here pretty quick. And so I want to start getting ahead of this. So I'm going to be applying this as a regular spray at about a 10-day interval, just until I can kind of see that the plants are kind of responding and maybe getting a little bit stronger. I've got the same issue over here that I want to make certain, since now the anemones are putting up their blooms, that we take care of that as well. So I'm going to make sure just proactively to get ahead of these things before any kind of aphid problems can show up, as well as just to kind of help give the plants an extra boost for structure. And it's the water-soluble calcium phosphate that I'm using today, but I think, I may switch to just water-soluble calcium as things go on a little longer, maybe after 2 or 3 applications of the acronym is WCAP, but it's water-soluble calcium made from basically bones. So this is probably going to take the full gallon to do both of these guys, but I guess I should just get on it and get it done. So I had to take a brief intermission because I had to change out the sprayer tip. I had a major clog in it. And so I put a whole new sprayer type assembly on it. I took a part of an old backpack sprayer that I've been using for spare parts and put a new spray tip on it, and worked out pretty good. The previous spray tip I had on it, this was a Scott's kind of cheapo sprayer that you can get at a nursery or big box store or something like that. They don't last terribly long, and the type of spray nozzle on it was not easy to clean, so I just decided to change one out for one I can disassemble and clean easy. So anyway, all these guys now have calcium phosphate on them with the surfactant, and the surfactant, it may make leaves look a little glossy to start out with. You can kind of tell there's a bit of a gloss on them there, but that quickly goes away. This is very low light conditions today. We kind of got overcast, maybe a little bit of partly cloudy, but mostly overcast, so there's no real strong light. So the material on here will evaporate slowly and will be basically there to be absorbed by the plant. Probably not as effective as if I'd done it at sunset or sunrise, but it will still work pretty good. Okay, I thought this is pretty wild. This is the first bud that I've seen on the ranunculus. This is January 10th, and I've got a bud starting to show. So I'm clearly late. I should have put the calcium phosphorus on here sooner, but you can kind of see things look a little knocked down because I was spraying in here, but they'll perk back up in a few hours. That's the whole point of it, is things are just looking kind of floppy like that. And maybe it's a fact that I planted too densely, because these plants are bigger than I've ever had before. Usually at this time, I usually don't get this kind of lush growth. So this has been pretty wild. Again, in the early part of it, I treated it with the Jadam microorganism solution and the Jadam liquid fertilizer, and maybe I put a little bit too much on. But we'll see if we can keep them from getting aphids or any kind of disease, and see what kind of buds we can get out of these guys. I may have some blossoms in late February. It's just kind of depending on how the weather goes. We're supposed to get really cold for the next week, starting this Friday. So this is going to slow things down a lot. So that's about it. I mean, it's not a complicated process. It probably takes more time to mix it up than sometimes to spray it. But in this case, we'll hit this guys every probably about 10 days, 7 to 10 days, kind of depending on how things look. I'm kind of play it by ear. If things start looking stronger and healthier, I'll kind of back off. But I think I'll keep with the calcium spray. I'll switch to water-soluble calcium only, probably, after a couple of applications of this calcium phosphate, because I don't want to OD it on the phosphorus side of it, but calcium seems to be something that really can keep the aphids from getting established. At least that's been my personal experience on ranunculus and anemones. Other people probably have other tricks, but that one seems to work best for me. That's what I'm concerned about. The growth was so lush that we're going to end up with an aphid problem in here, and that I really don't need. So thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. We'll catch you on the next video. Bye-bye.